Director General of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, Dr. Ifedayo Adetifa, says the COVID-19 Emergency Operations Center has met over the increase in COVID-19 cases in China. Adetifa said the center would continue to review the ongoing COVID-19 situation and will implement necessary actions if need be. The NCDC boss disclosed this in a series of tweets via his Twitter handle at Ifedayo Tifi. An emergency operations center is a central command and control facility responsible for carrying out the principles of emergency preparedness and emergency management or disaster management functions at a strategic level during an emergency and ensuring the continuity of operation of a company, political subdivision, or other organization. A virologist and former Vice-Chancellor of Redeemers University, Professor Oyewale Tomori, joins us now to speak to the NCDC efforts at preventing the resurgence of the COVID-19 pandemic and the implication for the health sector in Nigeria. Welcome to Newsday, Professor. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Now, the NCDC says despite the surge of COVID-19 cases in China and other countries in recent times, it does not expect any rise in cases or severe illnesses across Nigeria at the moment. Do you agree with this, or do you think Nigerians are vulnerable to the virus, especially now that there's no travel restriction in place?
Thank you very much. I think now that finally the NCDC is talking, I think that's what we should be expecting. First of all, for months now, we don't even know what the situation of COVID is in Nigeria. So we don't know whether we're getting an increase, whether the numbers are remaining. And therefore, I think one area which I think NCDC and STD has been, I wouldn't say they have done well, was in not informing our people about the situation of COVID. We need constant information. It's not just, surveillance is not something you wake up after public holiday that you start doing. Surveillance is an everyday affair. And because we're not the only country in the world and other things are happening in other places, we should be monitoring and moving on. You find other countries have gone up and started doing a lot of things. We have no information about what is happening in Nigeria. So glad the NCDC is waking up now, but I think we need to get the people aware of what exactly is going on and where we are as a nation. How many cases do we have now? Nobody knows. What are the variants? Nobody knows. These are the information I think people should be made aware of now, not tomorrow.
And Professor, how serious is this new strain that is coming out from China? And what are the implications if we don't start talking about travel bans, particularly from passengers from China, which seems to be the epicenter right now?
First of all, the greatest problem we're having is that China itself is keeping down the figures. They're not telling us exactly what is happening. You remember it was a policy of the government that we're not going to release data about most of the data. So we don't really know what is happening there. And if we have people going into China, either some of our traders, some of our business people, then as a country, we should be on the alert and revive all those things we used to do, ensuring that who is coming to the country is COVID negative or has been fully immunized. That's the only way. And if you don't tell people, then they wouldn't know. So that's what I'm saying. We need more information on what exactly is happening in China, up-to-date information, as much of it as we can get, and then take action about that based on that information. How many people do we know, Nigerians do we know that traveled from or to China? We don't know. This information is important, and let people be aware. It is our health they are talking about. Therefore, they can't keep that information away from us. They should let us know and what they are doing about it so that we too can participate. Like I say, it is not taking public out of public health. Get the public involved, and then your work becomes much easier for them.
Well, Professor, what does this resurgence in COVID-19 cases in China say about the efficacy of the COVID-19 vaccines? Then should the vaccination drive, should that be another topic of discussion or a topic of discussion that should be revisited in Nigeria now that we are thinking of how to prevent, that sort of resurgence here in Nigeria?
I think we need to make 2 points clear. The vaccine that China is using is the inactivated vaccine, which is different from the one that we're using in Nigeria. Inactivated vaccines, by their nature, are not as potent as the ones when you have attenuated vaccines. So China has been using the inactivated vaccines, and they have not been really vaccinating, especially the vulnerable group. So we can't compare what is happening in China to what is happening. But I think the good thing about it is that we need to continue to vaccinate our people. And the reason why China may be having problem now is that, yes, they went to zero COVID, but then they didn't do other things. They needed to have vaccinated their people, increase the number of people. And before the things was zero COVID they were having, then not many people were infected. Here we have the advantage. We had the infection, we had the vaccination. But then we must continue to vaccinate our people. A lot of people have got only one dose, some got 2 doses. I don't know how many people have gotten the booster dose, but those are the information we need constantly telling our people, advising them to go for the vaccination, because we are not alone in the world. And what is happening in China can still repeat itself. It started in 2020, this is 2023. It is possible that it can repeat itself, but we must be prepared ourselves.
And do you recommend that the government reinstitute the wearing of masks in public places and the testing at airports, and just generally, apart from the giving us more information as to the numbers of cases of COVID-19 in the country? What else should the government be doing, or the other health bodies be doing, to help us stay informed?
For example, in the new information they gave, they actually limited it that if you are elderly, if you have your COVID morbidity, please continue to wear your mask in public. That's what it says. And I think that message should be put out to everybody, that look, for those of us of our age group and who have comorbidities, I wouldn't go out into a public place without wearing my mask. We're not stressing that enough. There's still, the people who die mainly from COVID are the elderly people. Those are the ones we need to get that information to. Whenever you go out into public as a person like me, wear your mask, because the virus is still around. And that's where the importance of getting information from the NCDC of what exactly is going on is important. When you let people know what is going on, then the elderly people who know they are vulnerable would then be wearing their masks. Secondly, people coming in from that part of the world, they should come in with negative results. Or if they whatever it is, test them on arrival. There are rapid tests now that can give you your result within 30 minutes, 1 hour. We should institute that. Anybody coming from that part of the world, test them on arrival and keep monitoring them. So that we're sure that, we don't have the first case that came in 2020 was just an individual. So it can still occur here. We have a lot of Chinese here who are doing construction all over the place. And our people who are traders and business people go to China regularly. We need to monitor all these things on a regular basis. Please go get your vaccination, especially those of them who are going to that place. Also, when they come in, let's do a rapid test on arrival and check them to be sure that they are negative, and monitor them for a period of time.
Now, considering the way the Nigerian government is handling the resurgence of this virus in China, what lessons, if any, would you say that we've learned from the COVID-19 pandemic of 2020 that can help Nigeria better handle health emergencies? And I'm talking in terms of contact tracing, testing, vaccines, general health care. What lessons have we learned?
One of the greatest problems that we have in many of the African countries, not just Nigeria, is that we learn the lessons and we forget it as soon as the problem is over. Immediately, the number of COVID cases were going down in other parts of the world. We actually, NTA, all the newspapers, nobody was talking about COVID anymore. It was as if that was the end of COVID. And that's one of the problems. I say surveillance, you cannot take holiday from surveillance. Surveillance is an internal, continuous thing. You must be monitoring on a regular basis, particularly as other cases are happening on top of the world. One good example I keep giving, Malawi and Mozambique had polio 17 years after their last case because there were still cases in Pakistan and Afghanistan. So this is the way diseases occur. So we must constantly keep our people on the alert, let them know that these diseases are occurring, and be on the alert for this. So back to what we are saying, we need to continue to, when those people come in, any other case that we detect, and that's why our laboratories must be working effectively. Any other cases that we detect, we must monitor such people. Contact tracing is a very important aspect of. We must put all those in if we find any positive cases. But bear in mind, even of the 140 laboratories that Nigeria has today, how many of them are working? 50% or more are no longer testing, no are no longer reporting. We can't take holiday from surveillance, and that's what point we need to get to our leaders.
Professor Tomori, does it surprise you that around last year, when the Omicron variant had cropped up from South Africa, there was a huge backlash towards everything South African. There were travel bans. There was a whole discussion about the undertones of possible racism. Now with the China variant coming out around the holiday period, it doesn't seem like there's much of a discussion of travel bans regarding that. In fact, it's a bit of the opposite. We're hearing discussions of other countries relaxing their travel restrictions. What is does it surprise you that there's a bit of a disconnect over there? And should we be more worried about this strain, seeing that elections are coming up in the next few months, and there will be a need for us to gather in large crowds for multiple hours and for many days?
Good. First of all, let me go back to the South African thing. It is a normal human national reaction when you have a new strain or new variant coming up. People bring in all sorts of restrictions and things. Right now, there are more than 10, 20 countries that are restricting and looking at cases of coming out of China. They are testing them. They are putting new regulations. So what happened in South Africa wasn't anything new. Right now, if you check, it's only in the African countries. We're not talking about what is happening in China. US, UK, France, everybody, they are talking over there about this thing. So it's a normal human reaction. When anything new comes out of the place, you take an action as a what I call it, as a stopgap to let you prepare. And that's what countries are doing. So for me, a lot of the things we shout racism about, I don't see it as racism. It's not that we are not up to date in what we should be doing. If any new case is coming from a place and your people are coming from there, you want to protect your border. So that will give you time to plan. And that's what those countries are doing. Now, back to the question about, what are we doing in our country? This is where it is important for NCDC and steering committee to let us know where we are in relation to what variants are we getting in Nigeria. You raised a very important point. Elections are coming. People are going to come in all over the place. If we are not careful, and this thing gets into the country, it's a great way to spread the disease. And this is where information to our people becomes very important. But if you don't have data, if you don't have information about what you have, what are you going to tell your people? And that's why the surveillance by NCDC and steering committee is very, very important. Give us information about what exactly it is. If it is zero, let us know it's zero. If it is there, tell us and then give us advice on what to do.
Now, Professor Tomori, there's still the issue of vaccine skepticism. We've had so many conspiracy theories, and quite a number of Nigerians have refused to take the COVID-19 jab. Now, how do we overcome this, and how important is it for Nigerians to get vaccinated, especially those regarded as vulnerable? I'm talking about the elderly and those with underlying health conditions.
A good example is vulnerable is like me at my age and with my comorbidity. I will not risk not taking vaccine. I will go for it. I've gone for all it. I've gone for the booster. And I'm telling to people who are my age group, who have problems like we have other diseases, go for your vaccination. I think the error we made is the fact that when you don't produce vaccine and you depend on donation, you can't really plan very well. You can't say, okay, I'm going to test it because you don't know what vaccines you're getting. These are some of the things for the future for us to look at. Nigeria must learn to produce some of its own vaccine that it needs. But at the same time, information must go out on a regular basis. Vaccinations protect. Vaccines protect. Go out there and get the vaccine. Now, nobody's talking about that. We're talking about budget. We're talking about political parties and things. Yet, those vaccines, nobody's taking them anymore. The more you tell people, the more they're aware of it, then the more they take action. If you keep quiet over it, that's the end of it. Other problems there are too many problems in this country for the other one, for you not to make noise about your own problem. And that's the area where we are. So now we've forgotten about COVID. We're not talking about vaccination. We're talking about politics. And God forbid that one variant, XBB or whatever nobody call it, comes to this country, and then we're not prepared. That's what is going to happen. We better be on the alert. It is better to be on the alert so that this thing doesn't happen. We don't have the resources and the facilities to have a full-blown case. Therefore, you prepare against such type of thing. So right now, you have raised some information. People are coming home for Christmas and holidays. Election campaigns are coming up. Those are areas, possibilities of spreading the disease. And therefore, we must protect our people, guide them, keep them what to do on such situations.
Professor Tomori, there is a bit of fatigue amongst Nigerians, also a short attention span to disasters. It seems like some disasters happen quite often. It's hard to keep up with one or the other. Concerning COVID, it's been about 3 years since it's been lagging on. There's certainly some fatigue. A lot of people think that COVID has gone. I know the international focus has been on living with the virus.
Sorry, go ahead. Can you hear me?
Yes. Professor Tomori, if you can hear me, just let me know. We're speaking about the vaccination and the fatigue of the virus. Well, it seems we're having some communication issues with Professor Tomori, and we will have to end the interview there. Thank you so much for joining us, Professor, and enlightening us about the COVID-19 situation we should be aware of as it is active right now.